Welcome to ClipNotes.
The movie!
Mad Max.
The plot!
A violent motorcycle gang terrorizes innocent people while inadvertently making one cop really mad.
The characters!
Max. A police interceptor who is considering retirement. Toe Cutter, a sociopathic bike gang ringleader. Well, the late 70s may have been the rebirth of epic science fiction, but it was also the time of low-budget successes like The Hills Have Eyes and Friday the 13th, and when America's minimum requirement for mental stimulation was a car with the wrong wheels on it driving on top of other cars. And all that in a soup just sort of gave birth to this little action film with a standard budget of, I guess, almost nothing? And stars, a guy no one's ever heard of, and is directed by this other guy that no one's ever heard of, and is made in a country that no one's ever heard of. But it's one of those rare stories of an indie production pushing on through and actually getting finished. And the subject matter is car and violence. Sometime in the not-too-distant few years from now, this tubby guy in a baby's leather jacket is spying on some naked people when it turns out that he's a cop. All these guys are cop, and these ugly mustard packets on wheels are cop cars. And if they don't look like cops, I'll just remind you, this is a few years from now. Oh, it's okay. Anyway, they get a call. Cop killer making a getaway. So Roop here and Charlie, will they join in the chase? Only to get bumped off the road while this bad guy, name of Knight Rider, don't get too attached to him, calls out the Toe Cutter like an omniscient god. Meanwhile, over at Fat Nancy's, Goose, a bike cop, joins the chase too. But that doesn't last long because this vacationing couple, this jaywalking baby, and this mound of dirt just take out all the cops in a matter of seconds. Charlie got busted up bad. Now, for the first 10 minutes of this movie, a tone has been set, and some records have probably been broken. The cops are messy, the dialogue is humanistically random.
Blaspheming again. I thought I have to work with a blasphemer.
And the car wrecks are showstoppers, especially for an opening scene. And also for about 10 minutes, this mysterious figure has been working on his car, putting on sunglasses and trying to find his gloves with his eyes closed, I think. Finally, Goose calls Max in. He's an interceptor, they were all pursued. I guess that's impressive. And within seconds, he takes over Knight Rider, who suddenly has a rocket on the back of his car and careens into an explosive barrels transport mishap.
And there's Max!
And Max doesn't seem mad in his beachside bungalow where his baby hangs out and his wife provides the movie score. Yes, life is pretty good for Max. Even though government buildings are crumbling, his home is lush and green with like a million plants. And even though his baby is playing with a gun, it never manages to shoot itself in the face. And why? Even his wife can't stay mad at him for very long. Max is just a fun-loving guy far as can be seen. He puts on a Halloween mask to make his wife laugh. He even likes juggling. Then Goose and this mechanic show Max this new ride they've been working on.
I don't know what kind of car it is, and I don't care what kind of car it is, because this ain't car notes, people!
Meanwhile, in this live-action anime scene, McAfee, a giant pretty boy with some kind of government authority, tells this businessman with a katana that giving a car to Max will help keep him from quitting the force. Later on, at some cop shindig or a car accident, I can't tell, McAfee tells Max that somebody's after him due to the death of Explodey Rocket Man. But Max don't care, and this literally sleepy little town is suddenly overrun with a bike gang.
Aren't they cute backing up in unison? And dancing.
So Toe Cutter and his gang have come to collect the remains of Knight Rider and subsequently terrorize everyone they see. I mean, they just cannibalize this show car and murder these two kids for no reason. So Goose and Max get called in, but by the time they showed up, everyone's already been raped. And Johnny the boy was left behind spouting nonsense about Knight Rider. So Toe Cutter, clutching Knight Rider's coffin on his way out of town, sends Bubba back to retrieve Johnny the boy. But later on, at the halls of justice,
Man, this place is a dump!
Charlie's talking through a voice box now. The lawyers look like they fell out of a 19th century novel. Everything's falling apart, but there's tourists and middle-class condos in the forest. Really, the world audience can't be sure if this is post-apocalyptic or maybe that's just life in Australia. I don't know. It is only a few years from now.
Anyway,
Johnny is let off the hook because no victims appeared in court. And that makes everybody mad, but it makes Goose particularly mad. But Mad Goose just isn't as catchy a title, and that movie would be totally different anyway. Over at the shore, things are complicated within Toe Cutter's gang. I don't know. And at this club, it's just... Oh, it's so 70s. And somebody's messing with Goose's bike. So the next day when he leaves the club and rides for 2 minutes straight, is 2 minutes of this, his brakes fail, throwing him gently into a bed of grass. But then he borrows a truck to haul his wreck away, and within seconds, a bike gang descends upon him, and Toe Cutter forces Johnny to cook that goose. Toe Cutter, for some reason, is grooming Johnny to be a ruthless replacement for the Knight Rider, and through all the interactions with the gang, you can see that he is almost worshipped by his fellow miscreants. And honestly, he is kinda lovable. I mean, just listen to this dude talk.
The Knight Rider.
The Knight Rider.
Remember him when you look at the night sky.
But it's not for him.
for me, Baba.
But back to the good guys. The goose lives long enough to have his buddy Max give him an honest reaction to his scars. And not just with the double take or a standard mug drop, George Miller goes for the full-on, I'm so disgusted my reaction ripples time and space before my very eyes. Hey, Max is getting mad. Real mad! So the next day starts the epic of Sad Max.
Just can't get it clear in my head, Jess.
He's so sad. So he goes to see the strong-arm alchemist and quits the force. Tells McAfee he's starting to enjoy the violence, and that if he's out on the road any longer, he'll be just as crazy as the bad guys. Then, hoping to make Max quit his quitting nonsense, McAfee sends Max on vacation. Then it's time for Glad Max. 5 solid minutes of this torpid, comatose vacation montage, childhood monologues, buying a little dog, and khakis and ice cream until Max's wife just happens to be alone in this quiet town infested with Toe Cutter's gang. Like, by coincidence. They weren't following them. They're just there at the same time.
And take that damsel in distress trope.
And this dude kind of hurts himself wrapping a chain around her speeding car.
And also, screw you, child safety.
And she guns it out of town and then retrieves Max. They briefly have a nice laugh while hiding out, but the vacation gets much better when she discovers a human hand chained to her car. But whatever. They make it to their vacation home or a bed and breakfast, I'm really not sure. After some sunbathing, the vacation's taken up about 10 minutes of almost exclusively silence and crossfades. But finally, somebody attacks Max's wife oh no, somebody's chasing her. That's bad. I wasn't waiting for this whole time. They killed her dog. Rednecks are scary, but she's okay. Max gets his gun and heads off into the woods, which is a bad move because the bad guy's got his kid and his wife back at the house. But this old lady's got a shotgun and saves the day, locks up the bad guys, and they escape without Max. For a little bit, because some car trouble breaks them down and the gang runs down Max's child and wife. If all this running and screaming and crying isn't dramatic enough, then check out these heavily symbolic storm clouds just dooming up the place. So now his kid is dead and his wife has injured her everything, and as the nurse put it, he just stands in the hall like a zombie all day. I should be bummed out, but I've been waiting for this guy to get mad ever since the title promised it. So Max and the storm clouds hang out, and he distorts his Halloween mask so much that he gears up, cars up. Well, he's so darn mad he physically tortures a mechanic just for possibly knowing Toe Cutter's gang. Then there's this little gasoline heist complete with, there you go, pole vaulting onto a truck. It's beautiful. And Max spots the heist going down and begins his reign of vengeance, pushing guys off their bikes, leaving pictures of fallen loved ones in Toe Cutter's helmet, and getting stuck in rural traffic. This action-packed stuff, guys. And finally, he comes upon one of the gang who's had a crash, but Toe Cutter and Bubba are nearby. They take Max out pretty hardcore, and then Max kills Bubba so he can go after Toe Cutter, who, despite all of his childlike charm, has a solid, mature adult reaction to this scenario. So Johnny and the Toe get away on their bikes and Max chases Toe Cutter till he gets in an accident. Eyes literally bugging out of his head. And if that wasn't cartoonish enough for you, check out this beautiful, totally convincing drawing of a grill and headlights.
Guess that dude didn't want to hurt his car.
Then Max drives all night until he gets the drop on Johnny the Boy while he's stealing boots from a body at a car accident.
Man, for a world of nothing but cars and giant open spaces, people sure do get into car accidents a lot.
Anyway, Max chains Johnny up to the wreckage and the boy explains he has mental issues that make him violent as he begs Max for mercy. But Max just rigs up this Rube Goldberg death machine with only a few minutes till the gasoline reaches the flame. Then he points out quite eloquently that he can saw through the handcuff in 10 minutes, but he could hack off his own foot in under 5 minutes. Then leaves him alone with the saw until this mushroom cloud kind of ends the story and Mad Max drives off into the distance. That's the whole thing. The end! This movie was received remarkably well, even making it into the Guinness Book for the most profitable film ever. That's what low budget does. It has weird little side effects, both good and bad, like not having an apocalyptic vibe as advertised in the trailers, or having your entire film redubbed with American accents.
TV no one show. They didn't show. Nobody. The punks didn't show.
But, you know, it's complicated. Usually stories like this, especially in those days, would get right to the point. The partner killed off, the wife and child murdered. That all usually takes place before the movie or at least in the first act. But this story takes its time, which is likely due to budgetary necessity. Max's actual mad raid of terror lasts 3 minutes longer than the vacation sequence. And it was made up of one good crash and the rest is just silently driving around. All the really visually stunning bits are in the intro, and they just didn't have the funds to stretch out that madness for 90 minutes. So what you end up with is an origin story for a character who didn't exist yet. Unintentional or not, the story ends with you wanting to know what happens next to this guy because he's barely done anything. There was hardly any character development. Even when he says he's going crazy, there's no evidence of that before or after until he snaps. And that's because these filmmakers were more interested in visual storytelling. Most of the story develops in the crashes than the images, and again, maybe that's out of necessity, but movies are a visual medium. There wasn't much to this movie, but what they had was pretty different. And even if it is a little dated and its novelty has really worn off, well, who cares? A movie like this is definitely gonna get some sequels, not to mention inspiring other filmmakers to do it bigger and better with more money. Good job, Mad Max! Well, thanks for watching ClipNotes summary of Mad Max. Next up is Mad Max 2, so we'll see just how mad he gets. The quality of the films has really increased and brought in a huge new fan base, but I'd really like to hear from some long-term Max fans if you guys are out there. Say something in the comments below and hit the old likety-like button, and be sure to subscribe to Jabberwatchy.